Greetings in the name of the Most High, in the name of truth, in the name of writing. The written word is king. So to that end, I have done the written novelization of Girl Next, which you knew. I mean, back when I did it, I wound up barely getting it done before I had to go to the hospital and all that. So I never really had time to comment on it or present it. So what you're being presented with here is an early draft, my first real inspiration at this novel, and not the published draft, because the published you can get at crazedhouse.com, and I would advise it, especially if you can get, I don't know if I can get some copies, but yeah, I would get Girl Next. I would get the Girl Next poster. I would get the Girl Next book, because it's it will be a classic in the end. Get yourself a copy of Glass Backwards, because we're going to eventually do that one. And you'd want to have a that's pre-published, that's self-published, but it will eventually be published, by whoever publishes movie books. So Girl Next was published in for really worldwide distribution, but it's in Italian in Italy, and they basically give you a DVD, and they give you and the book in a bundle, and it's been very successful, from what I understand. A lot of people have it's somewhat of a hit in Italy, so that's happening. And plus, Girl Next, I think we've sold to Asia. The movie has been continuing to sell around the world. And I think Tony Timpone, he's like, the godfather of horror at this point, and with his own show on television with Eli Roth. I forget the name of it. I think it's Classics of Horror. They, do a anthology horror thing. Anyway, he used to be an editor at Fangoria. He's been in the horror game, a long time. And he is, I call him the godfather of horror, really, even though I'm older than him and I came earlier. But he has a nice forward in it. And then, so I published the forward so that it gives you a frame of reference as to what an expert in this field, where they think this movie is. The public in America didn't get it, but then again, that's the way they are with everything I do. So it doesn't really matter. They get it everywhere else in the world except here. And I suppose you could make a case, for Girl Next being legitimized by the fact that it won. A lot of credit goes to Larry Wade Carroll, the director, and Lawrence Kirchie, the producer, and all of us who really pitched in on the movie. But it has won. What's listed there in the text is 74 awards, including some very prestigious ones. So I really don't, in some analysis is, some of the stuff that we were doing, they picked up on, and they were, they understood what the general public seemed to eschew and seemed to be confused by, or felt was crazy or whatever. The critics took it differently. In that, I don't mean American critics. I mean, in the overall, the world, let's say, took it differently and understood what we were, what we were doing. That it was not just a torture porn movie. It was not just she gets abducted, she fights her way out against the monster, she gets free, end of story. Now this story's just begun, and you'll see this from the novel. Now, what I've had to do is that what makes this special is that you're getting the writer's basically first draft before publication. So it's special, and it will only be here a little while. I can't just leave publications up, but if I were you, what the thing to do is download it and have that original manuscript on hand. Okay, because it's a really It's really being customized for you, the reader here at Substack, and it's for you, and it will have value at some point. The kind of value that, crazy, auction value. So it will have value. It may not be overnight, but it will in the long run be something that you collected that you'll be happy you collected. In addition to getting the really raw read from me before the editors got going with it. I believe that my draft was a very strong draft that I turned in, and I made a couple of corrections. But yeah, it's now because of the formatting, because I'm having to take this from a basically PDF and other formats, Microsoft Word, whatever. Nothing translates into Substack. Substack is an asshole, complete, total. They don't know what they're doing. They can't translate even the simplest text. When you do, you have to go in and edit every little thing because it fouls up the formatting, glues words together, separates paragraphs, and it's all manner of havoc. It's just really like a little kid went in there and just started playing on the keyboard. So so the idea was hatched, instead of swallowing the whole elephant at once, we would take it one bite at a time. So chapter 1 today, okay, and then I'm hoping to talk a little bit about chapter 1. The objective was to get you to understand Lorian West, the main character, the fact that she doesn't know who she is, okay, to understand the context of Lorian West in this situation and how special she is, and that she's looks like just another abductee out of a supermarket parking lot. Just a carjack plus abduction of the young girl, and off to human trafficking she goes. But this was not that, and the people that were doing the abducting were obviously from this CIA, PSYOPs, MK Ultra, all that, well versed in all those things, and we're all military. That you may not have known that, but you're gonna get a glimpse. And I think chapter 1, when you see the film again, and then you read my chapter 1, you'll have a context to put Lorian in, at least for the beginning. But you'll realize that she doesn't know who she is, which is clear in the movie. But I mean, you have to dig a little. And I've noticed that they really like to dig into it in India. India loved the movie, and they went on and on about Larry being, having some homage to Kubrick and all that stuff. Just an amazing compliment. So did Julian Sands. Julian Sands was up on the stage presenting both Girl Next and Quantum Devil, and went on and on about the subversive nature of the films. And when I say subversive, what that means is the American public won't like it unless Jeff Bezos or some studio puts their approval on it. You know what I mean? That it's been censored by the Chinese or something. Then the public will go along with it, because the public here is just really, it's unfortunate that they are unable to chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. When we were kids in school, we learned about a thing called subtext. We learned about subversion. We learned about independent cinema. We learned about different independent cinema and cinema verite of France really gave way to the reality shows, which became so popular. And we were free to experiment. And when people would do different things, the public would usually try to understand what the filmmaker was trying to say and what techniques the filmmaker was using. Here they want a video format, and you just have, you sort of tell the story straightforward. No need for style, no need for your own signature, no need for your own artistry, no need for your own creativity. Just do it the way you're supposed to do it. We already have great actors and people and all that can make your film look great, and just paint by the numbers, and that way the public won't hate you. But I don't really care, because you see, I had this with Society, which it was actually banned in the U.S. and which is it was a blackout here for 2 years. No more than that. I don't think we got going till 1994, really. And people ask me that, don't you want to move to France? Don't you want to move to Italy? And yeah, I would like to move to where I'm accepted. Sure. That makes sense. I really do feel like it's very difficult on top of that to get into any kind of discussion about anything, philosophy, art, music. I used to belong to a book club where we'd read books and we'd discuss the ideas. And I do believe that that's an unfortunate thing that's left. And it, unfortunately, with American public, the lack of education shows and people complain every day. I just read an article on Wall Street Journal about, the fact there's no good movies coming out of Hollywood. And that's not true, by the way. There are some very good movies coming out of Hollywood. But the point is that they're disappointed at the kind of the repetitive, I think the repetitive nature of the style and the function of movies, which is basically to be a video show, And I mean, these are just other than that, I can't understand. I can't really, it's hard for me to comprehend winning 74 awards and then having the public turn on you. And what I've noticed recently, which is very interesting, is that the numbers have started to come up. And that's what happened with society and everything. It started like a 1, and scale 1 to 5. And then it got like a 2 after a couple of years. Then all of a sudden 3. And slowly as audiences took more of a liking to it, started understanding what was done, it went from this pretentious, stupid horror movie to brilliant, satire on the rich and the class system of America. And the fact that Brian Usna, the director, didn't get that appreciation early blew his mind, because he was sure, he was positive that it was going to be just a big hit right out of the gate. And it was in London. It was in Asia. It's sad. I mean, I'd almost get to the point where I just wouldn't want to release films in France, Spain, Italy. You know what I mean? Don't even just bypass the U.S. And but then what happens? I see something decent on Netflix or Prime or one of these, and I'm like, wow, that's a good movie. And it sort of keeps my hand in the game, as it were. Anyway, I've gone on now 13 minutes, probably too much for you, so I'm going to get off here. But do cherish this, do download it if you can, and collect it. That's my advice. I'm usually not wrong on these things. It may take a few years, but I think Girl Next, there will be a sequel made. Pretty sure that will happen, and it may even develop into a series. Where we really delve into this, because it's very fascinating. I would ask the question: is Lorian West a clone? Could she be a clone? Is that what's happening? But this is all for the curious. To dive into the novel, dive back into the movie. The movie has the highest rewatchability rating of just about any film that's been released, according to the critics. Especially like at Film Threat, they just said it has like a 9 out of 10 rewatchability rating. So there's things to consider. But then what we have to do is slow down now and start developing. Where did these things come from? And I think the novel is a good place to start. That is, if you're on the path, if you're on the trail. All right. Peace and love. How do I? Goodbye.